All right, let's move on to date-specific tools. Looking at the Add Column menu in our query editor, we'll see those date and time tools grouped here on the right. And these are actually pretty straightforward. We've got a few options here. One of the more interesting ones right at the top of the list is the age option. And that actually automatically calculates the difference between the current time based on the today or now function and the actual date in each row. You also have the date only tool, which basically looks at any fields that might contain both a date and a timestamp, and it strips the time component out and leaves you with just that date only. You also have your pretty basic set of date component functions like year, month, quarter, week, and day. And that basically just extracts individual components or individual attributes from a date field. And if you're selecting a field that has a timestamp as well, you also have similar time-specific options like hour, minute, and second. Two other ones that I want to call out here, earliest and latest. You'll see those two at the bottom of the list, and they're both grayed out. And that's because we're in the Add Column menu, and both of those functions act just like the statistics tool, and they return a single value. So to access those two options, you'll need to grab them from the transform option. And as you might have guessed, the earliest option is going to return the earliest date in the column. Latest is going to return the last date. So quick note here, you'll almost always want to perform these date operations from the Add Column menu as opposed to transform, since most of the time the goal is to actually build out new fields using these date components as opposed to overwriting or transforming an individual date or time column. So pro tip here, what you can actually do in Power BI quite easily is load up a table that just contains a single set of dates, or you can create a date table and then use these date tools to actually build out an entire robust calendar. So that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do in a second, but first let me give you a little peek of what that's going to look like. So we're going to start with a single column containing dates. We're going to apply those predefined date options using the Add Column tab in the query editor. And we're going to transform that individual column into an entire calendar containing additional fields like the day of the week, the day name, the start of the week, month, quarter, year, etc. So let's open up Power BI and give this a shot. All right, so if you're following along, go ahead and open up your AdventureWorks report file. You should see those two tables. We've got customer and product. We're going to go ahead and get data and grab a third table from a CSV. And this time we want our AdventureWorks calendar table. So when you double click, preview looks very straightforward, just a single column containing our dates. Go ahead and click Edit to launch the query editor. And here we are. So first two steps, table name first. Let's make it consistent, AW calendar. I could leave it here, but since this is technically a lookup table as well, I want to be consistent. So I'm going to add lookup at the end. So AW underscore calendar underscore lookup. Press enter. Obviously the data type looks good, recognized and formatted as a date. And I've got a column header. So check, check, we're good to go. And now let's explore some of these date tools. And I want to actually start with the earliest and latest options. So I'm going to go to the transform menu, which again is the only place I can access these two options. And when I click earliest, it behaves just like those stats functions, transforms the entire table into a single aggregated value. In this case, it's one date, January 1st, 2015. That tells me that's the earliest date in my sample. So we can close that step, get back where we started, and repeat the process for the latest date, 6/30/2017. So that tells us that the scope of the data set that we're dealing with is from January 1st, 2015 through the end of June 2017, or about 2.5 years of daily data. So I'll X out of that applied step as well. And now let's shift gears into the Add Column tab. And this time I want to create some new fields based on this date. So as you can see, I've got all my options here. Let's start with a day option and choose name of day. So obviously that just created a brand new column, exactly like we'd expect, and it gave it a column header by default of day name. Now I can customize those headers. In this case, I'm okay with that, so I'll leave it as is. And now it's important to note when you use these date tools that you have to have your date column selected to access those tools. If I accidentally selected day name, for instance, which is really just a text string, and I access those tools, you'll see that now they're grayed out. You can't really do anything except parse that field since it's a text string. So I'll select my date again, and now I've got access to everything. So another interesting one I want to show you is week. And I want to do the start of the week here. And there you have it. As you can see, Power BI has decided that a week starts on Sunday. So January 4th, 2015 was a Sunday. The next week starts on January 11th, which was the next Sunday, and so on and so forth. You can actually change this, and it's not very intuitive. You actually have to dig in to the M code, which I told you we weren't going to do, but I lied. I want to show you this just because it's a really helpful little tip. And what you're going to do is I expanded the formula bar here, and you see where it says date.start of week and then the word date in brackets. I'm going to click my cursor right after the closing bracket and press a comma. Now there's two different ways to determine a custom start date for the week. Number one, I could type just a number, which Power BI will interpret as a day of the week. And I know for a fact that number 1 represents a Monday. So if I just type that 1 and press enter, now you'll see these dates all shifted by 1. So now the start of the week is on a Monday, the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, etc. You can go back in and press 2. You'll see they shift again to a Tuesday. So that's the first way to update. The second way, which is a little bit more readable, is to actually type day dot and then the name of the weekday. So day dot Monday, and there you go. I've got my Monday start weeks, January 5th, 12th, etc. So let's go ahead and leave it just like that, as is. I'll collapse my formula bar. And now remember, I have start of week selected. I'm going to go back and select date before I access these tools. And now let's go ahead and grab some month fields. So I want the start of the month, Jan 1, scroll down, Feb 1, looks good. Select date again. Let's go ahead and do the month name at the bottom here, name of month. There we go. And then we'll do 2 more for the years. I don't really need quarters in this case. So let's do the start of the year. And then the last one, let's do the actual year itself. So year. And that looks like a great start. I think that's pretty much all that I'll need. I've got date, the day name, the start of the week, start of the month, name of the month, start of the year, and the year itself. And so what this calendar table will allow me to do is filter and segment the values in my data set, in my data model, by any of these fields that I've just created. So it will allow me to look at things like sales not only by day, but by week or by month or by day of the week. And that's going to be really helpful as we start using more of these analysis and visualization tools. So our calendar is good to go. Let's click on our Home tab, press close and apply, and it will load it up into our model. And there you go, we have our third table accessible here. Let's check the relationships view. 3 table objects with all of those fields we just created based on that one single date column. And there you have it, query editing date tools.